Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be looking at levels of body organization, body systems, and language of disease. And by the end of this lecture, you will have a much better idea of the game plan as we go through the systems and work our way through the organization of each system as we start with the integumentary system in our next lecture. So we will start with listing the simplest to most complex levels in an organism, name the functions of the four basic types of tissue in the body, recognize the use of prefixes, roots, and suffixes, analyze medical words, define basic terms, and identify the roots and suffixes. There's suffixes pertaining to the diagnosis and surgery. So we'll start with the cell. A eukaryotic cell, it's the basic living organism, and that is where metabolism always takes place. Energy is generated by ATP, and this is a schematic of a generalized cell. We have microvilli on the outside. Not all cells have all of these structures in them. So this is a composite cell of several different types of cells. So you would never actually see a cell like this in real life, but this gives you a good idea, a good overview of a cell that would be in your body. In this cell, there are microvilli or finger-like projections sticking out, a vesicle, which contains waste to be excreted, peroxisome, which engulfs waste and digests them, mitochondrion, which generates ATP using oxygen, smooth endoplasmic reticulum as opposed to rough endoplasmic reticulum. Over here we have smooth endoplasmic, does not have ribosomes or these little dots on the outside where RNA is produced. Centrioles, which are used in cell division, lysosome, which also has digestive enzymes for getting rid of waste, and cytosol is the generalized term for what all of this floats in. There's a Golgi apparatus, which is a factory within a eukaryotic cell. There are the aforementioned ribosomes on the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Surrounding it all, you have the plasma membrane. In the middle of the cell, you have the nucleolus inside of the nucleus, and surrounding the nucleus is the nuclear membrane. This is where the genetic material is contained for the functioning of the cell. In the nucleus, there are chromosomes. They carry the genetic information. In the humans, there are 46 chromosomes, except in sex cells, when there are half those number, half from the male and half from the female gametes, being the name for male and female sex cells. Genes are separate units of DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, and that controls the formation of enzymes primarily, which is what are needed for metabolic reactions within the cell. Next up from cell, we have tissue, of which there are four types. The first is epithelial. It covers and protects body structures, lines, organs, vessels, and cavities. Generally, it is simple with a single layer or stratified with multiple layers to protect deeper tissue. The simple is for absorption and the stratified is for protection. Connective tissue is the second type. It supports and binds body structures. Muscle contracts to produce movement. There are three types: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth, and we'll delve deeper into these as we get to those systems. And the last tissue is the nervous, which is the brain, spinal cord, and the nerves. And that's responsible for coordinating body responses by the transmission of electrical impulses. Membranes are the simplest tissue. There's mucous membranes, which secrete mucus, serous membranes, which secrete a more watery fluid, and lined body cavities. And fibrous membranes are tough with connective tissue to cover and support organs. Organs and organ systems are the next up in our organization. So let's take this back. We actually started with the cell, but you could go back to chemicals. And if you do end up in a program with organic chemistry, you might see me again, and we can talk about the chemicals that go into making the cells. I also teach organic chemistry to the dental hygiene program. So the chemicals make up the cells make up the tissues make up the organs group together to make the organ system, and the body as whole is made up of organ systems. And you'll notice that our sections are broken down by organ system primarily. Like I said, we will be starting with the integumentary system next, for instance. So we have organs which are made of tissues and grouped into systems. Systems have a function and they work together. The goal of all of this is homeostasis, which is the regulation of a healthy body, and that can be water balance, that can be heat balance, or any other thing that goes into a properly functioning organism. So these are the roots for cells and tissues. I'm not going to go through each and every one of these. You have access to these slides, and you will be expected to be familiar with each of these so that you will understand the lectures as we work through them. So take some time and look at these, or look at the slide set and commit them to memory. So key terms, we'll look at the most important ones. The cell is the basic structural unit, and cytology is the study of cells. Histology is the study of tissues, and homeostasis is a steady state of internal stability and constancy. But you want to look at that word stability when you're talking about homeostasis. Mucus is a thick fluid. Nucleus is the control center with the chromosomes containing the DNA. An organ is a part of the body with a function, part of a system, and tissue group together and form organs. These are some more roots for diagnosis. During physical examination, there'll be visual inspection, palpation or touching, percussion or tapping of the body, and auscultation is when you're using a stethoscope to listen to body sounds. So in vital signs, you'll be taking temperature, pulse rate, respiratory rate, and blood pressure. The normal blood pressure is 120 systolic or over 70 diastolic. And when we get to the study of the heart, we will learn more of the difference of those terms between systolic and diastolic. During examination, there are tools that you use. The ophthalmoscope is for the eyes. The otoscope is for the ears. The hammer is for testing reflexes. You hit a tendon and can test reflexes. And the sphygmomanometer is another name for the blood pressure cuff. If you really want to impress people on your rotations, learn to say and spell the word sphygmomanometer. So here's another example of an examination using an endoscope. In this case, the bronchoscope is, this is an eye up here looking through the scope, and it's gone down into the broncho or the lungs to take a look, looking for lung damage or invasion of cells and mucus and those types of things. A biopsy is a removal of tissue for examination. There can be needle biopsies, small punch biopsies, and endoscopies, and surgical removals of larger amounts of tissue. So after the examination, treatment can be determined if they can find the diagnosis. And it can be any combination of the following: counseling, drugs, surgery, radiation, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and psychiatric treatment. And the prognosis is the prediction of, or the outcome of the disease. More suffixes. The one you'll see most commonly is graph or graphy, is the act of recording data. More suffixes, and we went through all of those. Again, you do have access to these slide decks. Plasty is the reconstruction or surgical repair, one you'll see somewhat frequently. And last slide here, so I got TRIPSY is one you want to keep in mind. Just a pro tip, I do see that one on tests with some frequency here. Neurotripsy, crushing. Neuro for nerve, so tripsy would be crushing of a nerve. And that's it for today. Thanks once again for your attention.